Well, yeah, so very timely. I noticed a report has come out from France today that says that men produce 26% more emissions, carbon emissions, than women, and that's primarily down to meat eating and driving.
It's really interesting because actually when you look at our sort of helpline inquiry figures and you look at the kind of gender split, it's around sort of 70% male to 30% female.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Women in the Driving Seat, where we take the time to shine a spotlight on the wonderful women in automotive. This week we're going to be talking about society and community. Already I feel a warm glow. I'm very pleased to be joined by Beth Morley and Rachel Clift. We will start our conversation with both lovely women in a minute, but first let's have a look at the bios of our guests. Beth is Human Insight Lead at Cenex and has been with the company for 6 years. Before that, she worked in public sector and behaviour change programmes for recycling and waste reduction. Beth lives in Nottingham with her 3 children and husband. After being car-free since COVID, she has just taken the leap to get her first EV. We'll come back to that. Rachel is CEO of the automotive industry charity BEN. She has led the charity's health and wellbeing services, which provide life-changing support to those who work or have worked in the automotive industry and their family dependents. Rachel has been responsible for a significant programme of transformation during a time when the charity has also experienced substantial growth in service demand and charitable impact. Before BEN, Rachel led employability and workplace health and wellbeing programmes for 2 large welfare to work provider organisations, Ingeus and People Plus. A University of Birmingham physiotherapy graduate, Rachel has been the on-site physiotherapist for Peugeot at their Tile Hill plant in Coventry, and has also had a successful sporting career as a former Olympian with over 140 international appearances for Great Britain and England women's hockey teams. I'm definitely coming back to that. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's kick off with our first question. As always, Beth, what plates have you been spinning? What balls have you been dropping this week?
Yeah, lots.
Good.
All of them. I think well, yesterday I was in Wrexham with the Transport for Wales at a local officers electric vehicle infrastructure event, which was a really great event. We had lots of interesting discussion about centering the user's need when we think about electric vehicle infrastructure, and a lot of conversation about cross-gully, cross-pavement charging, which is a big topic in the industry at the moment. So I was just leaving the event and I got a phone call from my 12-year-old to say, I've forgotten my key, I'm locked out. So I'm back. He's back in Nottingham, 2 hours away, and I can't do anything. Luckily, neighbours looked after him and everything was fine. But I was driving home and I was thinking, I feel so guilty about this. I feel terrible. And I realised, why do I feel guilty? He's old enough to remember his key and his dad was there to tell him to remember his key. So there's no way that it's actually my fault. But that is a ball that I felt like I dropped, but actually I'm trying to tell myself you didn't drop it. It's not yours to drop.
Also, don't you find yourself thinking, when I was a child, my parents know where I was always permanently locked out.
Yeah, or the door was open. That's
that's it, one or the other. Yeah. Oh, great. Rachel, what about you?
Oh, so this week, it's funny when you get asked that question because you're a bit like, actually, what have I done this week? But we are spinning so many plates at BEN at the moment because we're going through quite a big strategic shift. So we are in the thick of a divestment programme of our care services and village, really showing our commitment to the industry. So what we want to do is use those funds to increase the scale of what we're doing across the industry because we know it's there. So we're in the thick of that transfer programme, which means I'm also formulating a new senior leadership team. We're thinking about future strategy. We've got the annual accounts that we'll be doing over the next quarter, so I've been working on that. Had our first new operations meeting for our new senior leadership team, media inquiries, it's marketing, all sorts. And I suppose being new into the chief executive role from November, I say new, that's like 6 months in now. It's just the view that you see is different to when you're working as what was an operations director before. And I love that. I love the variation in spinning those plates. I did drop the ball on Monday. I realised that I hadn't washed my daughter's, similar thing with children, I hadn't washed my daughter's netball skirt ready for after school club. So I quickly put it in the wash on Monday morning, couldn't get it dry for her to go to school, and said, I'll drop your kit off for your after school club. Obviously, the day just went away with me and I forgot to do it. And I was like, well, she's going to have to find a way. And she certainly did, because when I picked her up at 4:30, she had these little tight cycling shorts on that were underneath her school skirt. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, that was my ball dropping.
Be honest, is it you sabotaging netball because it wasn't hockey? If it had been hockey, you would have remembered, right?
To be fair, I did actually really used to like netball, and I've channeled her a little bit into netball as well. But that's a funny observation. Maybe.
You're going to have to examine your conscience.
Yes.
So rewind a bit and tell me about Ben. And how many people work at Ben?
So at the moment, within our kind of health and wellbeing services, charitably, we've got around sort of 50 people. When we
50,
50 people. Across the whole organisation with Care and Village, there's around 350, with 400 with bank staff that we use and agency staff for care in particular. We will be an organisation when we have finished the sort of divestment programme of around 60. So there's some additional roles that we will need centrally just to support our charitable activity. So, we, as I said, we're about to embark upon a new evolution of Ben, what has been and what is to come. So we're a single focused health and wellbeing charity there to support the industry, its people and family dependents. Our mission is really clear. We provide support for life for the industry and its people. We want to work with employers to build a resilient and motivated workforce. But there's this kind of extra layer for us, which is about championing positive change for the industry as well. So that's something that I think is a bit of a point of difference, that over this next strategic period, we really want to have an influence on that as well.
And when you say support, what sort of support do you offer?
Yeah, so a range. I mean, our model works on both physical and mental health, and then we look at wellbeing as being the thing that people are most in control of. So you almost liken the analogy of a car dashboard, that you've got your physical health in one dial, your mental health in another. These things are, inextricably linked to each other, but actually it's your well-being. So how you manage yourself, your emotions, your lifestyle, your money, your home life, your network, which includes your sort of working life, are all the thing that places you most in control of your physical and mental health. So all of our services are aligned to that model. So we provide services online through digital interaction, CBT. We've got therapies, we've got case management, we provide welfare grants for people that are really struggling financially. We've got training projects for employers. So it's really, the portfolio of services and support that we have today is very different to what we were, historically, because...
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to interrupt there. What about disability and physical,
Yeah,
challenges?
so the good thing for us is that we take a very personalised approach. So when somebody approaches us for support, we look at them as a whole person and every little aspect of what is happening for them, and we will use our case managers to help them to navigate whether they need support from statutory services and help them to broker getting into services maybe a bit more quickly. We'll look at if there are health issues, disability, how are they managing their kind of conditions, what are their barriers, we'll help them to overcome those barriers. So it's a very personalised approach. And I think there's a real synergy in this for attracting people to the industry, which is there's obviously a huge disability employment gap that we have in this country, to try and encourage more of those individuals to come into the industry. I think Ben plays a massive part in supporting them with their employers to make that happen and to do that seamlessly as well.
And you mentioned Village.
Yeah, so we have a retirement village in Ascot. So on one of our sites down south, we have a care home and a retirement village, and that was a decision made in the last strategic period to effectively build on the land that Ben had to help us to generate funds for charitable impact.
Wow, blimey! I mean, that is quite an undertaking. Does that come with, what sort of support does that come with? Does that come with any sort of nursing medical support?
So in our care homes in particular, obviously it's regulated activity. So we are regulated by the CQC. We have registered nurses on site, and we have to fulfil all of our obligations from a compliance perspective of how we deliver those services. So yes, there is that whole kind of medical and nursing intervention on those sites at the moment.
Wow, it really is holistic, isn't it? It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. We'll come back to that. Beth, let's change course here entirely almost, except maybe there is some overlap. Behaviour change in low carbon transport options. Talk to us a bit about that. Is it a about how can we get people out of dirty fossil fuels and into electric and clean energy solutions. Have I got the wrong end of the stick?
Yes and no. So I think the work that I do at Cenex, we tend to refer to my job title is Human Insights Lead. So my specialty is behaviour change, but the team that I work with, we look across anything to do with people, is what I always say, because you have that kind of individual behaviour that we need to look at around modal shift, around getting people out of cars, reducing car mileage, but also getting people into EVs, and how do electric cars and different new technologies fit to people's needs, and are they actually being developed in a way that will help people live their lives, or are they just being developed because they're interesting, fun technology that someone's got carried away with? But then we also look at sort of sociology elements as well. So we look at kind of social impact, wider range of just transition factors. Different members in the team have different areas of specialism that we'll bring in depending on what the research is and what we need to look at.
Have you said in your intro that you've just gone back into cars and you've just gone back into an EV. Is this because you felt like you had to walk the walk if you were talking the talk?
Well, partly. I mean, I've never been a big car person. I often say I'm in completely the wrong industry because I've never really been that interested in cars. I didn't learn to drive until I was in my mid-30s. After I had the third child, I was like, I probably need to learn to drive and have a car now. Never felt that bothered about it. I live in a city. It's very easy to get around without one most of the time. And then when the car died during COVID, we were like, we'll just not bother replacing it. But it has become, as time goes on, you're just like, actually, there's a lot of things where life is so much more difficult, particularly when you've got family life and all sorts of things going on without having a car. And also because the price of used EVs was coming down, we were sort of, okay, we're in a position now where I didn't really want to get another car that wasn't an electric. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, let's wait until we can do that. Because I do feel it's quite important to practice what you preach and have a go at things. So when we do stuff in like shared transport, shared bikes and stuff like that, I'm always saying to people, have you been on it? Have you tried the service? Because if you're recommending something or writing a report about something, if you haven't tried the service, then you've fundamentally got a massive data gap.
And have you got a home charger, or are you reliant on the public charging network?
We haven't got a home charger yet. We do have a driveway, so we can eventually. We just haven't got around to it yet. And talking to our electrical engineers at work, they were telling me all about the complications of closed loop electrical supply, and I was saying, this is very complicated. I'm going to have to get my head around it.
Do you know what you don't? As one who does have this, you just get somebody to come along and fit one
and sort it all out for me.
Show you how to download the app on your phone. That was the most tricky part for me. So how are you finding it with the public charging network? And
it's not too bad. Nottingham's pretty good. They've been quite proactive over the last few years. So we've got quite a few nearby. Most of the leisure centres, have charging points. So far it's been all right.
Because you and I, we were talking just before this podcast started about the fact that I think I first came across you when we were both on Women's Hour on Radio 4, and we were talking about the electric car report, No Driver Left Behind, that Auto Trader had put out. But you were the first time I had heard somebody make a comment about women and cars based not on anything to do with cars in the automotive industry, but based on women in society and how women are, and you made a couple of points, and one that always stayed with me was that you said, well, hang on, one of the many things is that there are more women in social housing than men. You don't tend to find snazzy charging points at social housing.
Yeah.
And I thought, that blew my mind. Here's somebody talking about how a driver might interact with the car from the position of just how they are in society.
Yeah.
Seeing an individual as an individual.
Yeah, well, that's what influences people's decision making. So that comes back to the behaviour element, is you've got the individual's thoughts and feelings, but actually fundamentally what society is called, impacts on the person as well. So yeah, I think the current figure is about 58% social housing is female occupancy, which is much higher than owner occupied. And if you look at the figures for how many women are owner occupiers and how many women in rental properties as well. So it's a much higher amount. And up until recently, there was very little being done in any social housing or in rental properties around charge points. There has now, obviously the grants have changed, and social housing companies are looking more and more about installing charge points. So I think we're starting to see that uptake. There's other really interesting data about housing, a lot more disabled people in social housing, and that gets into an interesting conversation about mobility and the switch that they're going over to electric vehicles.
We have mobility on episode,
So that, you know, there's a key factor there, that people do not have agency to make the change to their own property, to put in place the charging that they need. But there's other things about women as well, things like the jobs that women have. So women tend to be underrepresented in higher paid, more senior jobs. Those are the jobs that tend to provide company cars, which tend to be electric because of the benefits in kind. And you know,
and you were saying they tend to be overrepresented in public service.
And like health, education,
which don't tend to
social
company
care,
cars,
where you don't get a company car.
Very interesting. I mean, this is the kind of stuff OEMs and retailers ought to listen to. Coming back to Ben, what do OEMs, retailers have a relationship with Ben? Do they support it financially? How does it work?
Yeah, we are obviously, the automotive industry, so a key sort of audience for us and stakeholder is the industry itself. And so we rely on vital funds from OEMs, from retailers. And obviously it's a vast industry and we can't catch everybody. So there's a lot of work for us to actually do over this next strategic period in raising awareness and working more with not just the kind of larger corporate organisations, but actually more of the SMEs, because that's where the greatest need is almost as well. So we have got this challenge. Whilst we have made this big strategic decision to divest our care and village services to help us for future funding, what's the important message really for us is that we will use those funds to actually help us to generate a return to help us fund charitable impact. We can't just spend that money year on year, and so it's no longer there, and then Ben is no longer there. So sustainability is huge for us as a charity, and we will rely on the industry playing their part. So there's this overarching message for us, which is about the health and well-being of the industry is everyone's business, and it will actually impact on your bottom line. There's a collective responsibility, not just for Ben to be sort of having this on the top of their radar, but also you as an employer for your people, but also for the wider industry. So play your part from a ESG, from a CSR, sustainability perspective. So that's kind of the kind of journey for us really with the industry, is we do have strong supporters, Auto Trade being one of them, we need more. We need more of that from the industry to play their part in helping us on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead, you know, into the future, I would say with the pressures that come with an ageing population, more pressure around things like dementia, all the conditions that are associated with older people is going to put you guys under more pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's this kind of working age squeeze as well. So you've got people of a working age that have got young dependents and older parents, and so they're feeling the squeeze of dependence on both sides. Now, our background and context of delivering care services places us in a really strong position to help people working in the industry to navigate their way around that. And there's elements of that might be about supporting them financially to enable them to care for their older dependents as well. So we will do what we do, which is take a personalised approach, look at what support needs, what coping mechanisms, what other services they could access. I mean, one of the things that we do is we look at how people are maximising their benefits. So, you know, we have a welfare system, and where people are really struggling financially, we will absolutely help them to open doors as to how they can generate more funds. And that will be the same for, are there other things that they could access from a statutory point of view to enable them to care for their older dependents. So the whole support for life thing is absolutely, you know, we're there to support people for when they start in the industry through the thick of their kind of working age into retirement, and at every stage they will face different challenges and that's what we're there for.
Gosh, I mean, that's quite a pledge. thinking about mental health in particular, which, you know, so many of us are so much more aware of, you know, we'll either have been through some sort of crisis or challenge ourselves, or we definitely will know somebody who has. I saw that you said, you know, you've seen an increase in calls to your helpline for support around suicide in the past year. Do you think that is purely because everyday life is becoming more pressured, or do you see an increase in pressure from the industry? You know, having worked in the industry for 25 years now, certainly there's never been more of a time of change, whether that's change from electrification, autonomous vehicles, changes around DE&I that put pressure on organisations. I mean, it's just coming at us from all angles, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how do you attribute that increase in stress and pressure? What do you see coming through the system?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that was really noticeable for me when I first joined Ben, so I have been working for Ben for sort of 7 years, was I think we were hitting a point at which mental health was becoming more of an issue. And we probably know that whilst maybe 1 in 4, 1 in 5 of the working age population are struggling with their mental health at any given time, in the industry, that's about 1 in 2, 1 in 3. So we are at a higher risk, a higher prevalence. So that's going to have a knock-on impact, because if you're struggling with your mood or you're worried over time, that's what leads to feelings of depression and anxiety. And if that carries on over a period of time, you become at risk of crisis, breakdown, and a suicide risk. So all of those things align to what we see. Obviously, part of our agenda is to be doing more preventatively, more proactively to try and stop people from getting to that point. So that's certainly part of our sort of strategy going forwards. But I suppose if you're painting a really bleak picture, if you look at the statistics around suicide and then you apply that to automotive, I think quite easily we could be saying that we're losing 2 lives a week to suicide in the industry. That's the state of play. And we're not even aware of many of those, because awareness is a challenge for us.
Are those UK figures?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So high.
Yeah. And we in reality, we deliver an urgent response service for employers, which is free to employers, and suicide and self-harm is one of the areas that we actually support. So where there's been loss of life, probably 90% of those is where an individual in the industry has taken their own life, and it's actually had a significant impact on the workforce. And we go in and we provide that kind of vicarious trauma support, really, and help the employer to navigate their way through that. So we know it's prevalent, we know it's an issue, but I think it's a combination of, it's not just to do with the industry, but it is a high pressure industry. It always has been. Sales targets, productivity, all those sorts of things. Those things are the same. I think they're even more of an issue now because of the stretch. You've got skill shortages. You've got, therefore we've got shortage in people. So people are more stretched in the job that they're doing. And then you've got all of the different aspects of life being quite complicated. We're all feeling stretched and busy. We've gone through the kind of cost of living pressures. I'm not sure that our industry colleagues are really through that, past that. That's still having an impact. So you combine all of those things together, and we don't, day to day, we're hearing bad news all the time. It's very visible, it's very prevalent. So it's hard to kind of get away from life being, not always very nice. So I think all of these things are contributing to the issues around suicide. But the more we feel comfortable about talking about it and checking in with people, and also being prepared to go that little bit further to find out a bit more what's going on for that person, then that's all we can do progressively to make this situation better.
Yes, yeah, I hear you. Beth, do you this kind of the increase in society, pressure on jobs, pressure on household budgets, pressure on mental health, that's all going to impact consumer change and consumer behaviour and responsibility and behaviours around what products and brands and how people are spending their money? It must all come into play when you're looking at transport solutions.
Yeah, it does. I think it's really fascinating. I didn't know those figures, and I think I'm really intrigued to know why is it that the automotive industry has a higher rate. That those figures, and where is that in the industry? So that's what I would do, is let's have a look at what's behind the data. Let's understand what's going on with people, and is that because when you look at a high level number, it doesn't necessarily tell you the full picture. So who is that in the industry? Where are they? What kind of job level are they at? All that information then helps you to target your response
Yeah.
or your advertising or the shift or whatever you want to do better. So I think we tend, sometimes we look a little bit too high level, and actually we need to dig in a little bit deeper to understand what's really going on with who.
Well, especially
yeah.
you know, with the transition to electric, everyone talks very glibly, don't they, at marketing level about the transition to electric as a lifestyle change. But when we talk about lifestyle changes in transport, it's a kind of marketing phrase for, hey, you might want to go premium, you know, you might want to, this is all about saving the planet now. But lifestyle change for transport solution can mean all sorts of things, and it can mean, well, now I'm disenfranchised, I'm out of the picture because I can't afford to go electric, or I don't have a home charging point. How am I meant to access the public charging network? Or I'm somebody who suffers a lot from anxiety and stress, and the thought of adding to that with charging and range anxiety, there's no way my mental health can cope with that. All sorts of other issues that need to be taken into account.
I think one group I'm particularly interested in, and I keep raising it at every opportunity because I hope at some point someone's going to pay me to do some research in it, but is your sort of single sole trader van drivers. And particularly, I think the ULEZ debate in London really highlighted some of the issues around that. So you've got people whose profit margins are tiny, if existent at all, and they don't have the capital funds to switch to an electric vehicle. They've got the vehicle they've got, and that's what they use for their work, and they're reliant on that for their work. But they're getting increasing pressure from cities that are putting in place, congestion zone or air quality measures to try and reduce the amount of diesel vehicles and petrol vehicles going into the city, but they need to do that for their work. And these are the people that I think you see some real kind of disenfranchised, and then it spills into wider societal political conversations about who these people are, how the cost of living crisis has impacted them, how changes in society are impacting them, and what that's causing for their mental health and their ability to engage and their positivity for the future, because they just really don't see a place for themselves going forward. And without the research to really understand what's going on there and what would be helpful. So we've got loads of stuff really in place for public charging and private car users. We've got loads of stuff for fleets and large organisations to help within the electrification. But these people that are one or two size company are hardly, there's nothing. What is there out there to support them in their transition and in the changes that are happening in the vehicle world?
Yes, I think this is such a critical time in the industry for everyone for all sorts of different reasons. We have to be very careful about how we go forward. And I don't think OEMs, they've got the time or the bandwidth to be thinking about half this stuff. And the industry as a whole is not used to thinking outside of its own bubble and raising its head above the parapet and looking at socioeconomic changes and pressures to say, A, what might our workforce be suffering from, and B, what might our customer base be suffering from and be worried about. And this provides a time, doesn't it? This is the biggest evolution in transport in the past 100 years since horse and cart to motorised transport. It's a time to just build in these reflections, isn't it? I don't know what you think, Rachel, about as where women are in all this as well. For example, do you see more women calling in on your services now, coming to you and wanting to use your services than men do? Or do you see the other way around, that actually men are feeling more disenfranchised or wondering about where their place is? Or is it still
it's really interesting because actually when you look at our sort of helpline inquiry figures and you look at the kind of gender split, it's around sort of 70% male to 30% female,
which could be a reflection just of the industry.
Exactly that.
Makeup,
it's
right.
Funny that it's a very similar representation of the industry.
Right.
Now, I think that's really positive because it kind of demystifies this whole element of men don't reach out for support until it's too late.
Yes.
Well, actually, men do reach out for support when they know it's safe to do so, and when they do. The reality is it's like a weight off their shoulders that they've spoken to somebody about this issue, and the earlier that happens, the better. Now, notoriously, women are a bit better at reaching out. I think that we would probably say that. But no, it is quite an accurate representation of the industry. So hopefully over time what we'll see is more of a gender balance and more women in the industry, and we'll be able to support them with the same representation.
Yeah. Do you know, as a mother of boys, all this really matters to me now about men coming forwards with their mental health and speaking out early enough. I mean, it should have mattered to me before, but I've just become obviously more noticeable for me. Beth, we were having another little talk about men and women just beforehand. About tell us again what you just said to me about emissions, men versus women.
Oh yeah, so very timely. I noticed a report has come out from France today that says that men produce 26% more emissions, the carbon emissions, than women, and that's primarily down to meat eating and driving.
Who knew? Well, I think we all did, but
yeah, it is. They did say so. If you adjust it for social economic factors, it goes down to 18%, and that is the equivalent to the gap between the highest social economic group and the lowest social economic group. So yeah, I think it's a really fascinating statistic to delve much more deeply into. But
it is. I mean, you could pull that out in so many ways. But I immediately started thinking about the fact that, you know, and yet we know women are traditionally more interested in making sustainable purchasing decisions and so on. And then that leads you to, but women are behind the curve with electric car adoption. So that doesn't work. So what's going on there? It opens up a whole Pandora's box, doesn't it? Stuff. Yeah. Rachel, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. I wanted to ask, what sort of roles are available at Ben? What could people do if they want to come and work at Ben?
Yeah, so I mean, the charitable world is an absolutely amazing kind of space to work in, because, and I actually view it as a bit of an honour and a privilege, because everything that I do is about the end user and making a difference. But the roles are very varied, because you've got the kind of fundraising side, bringing funds in, events, and all the kind of fundraising campaigns, business development partnerships, and that donor management bit when people come on board and support us. Then you've got the whole awareness, so we've got marketing, comms, that kind of PR and outreach role where people can physically get out there, be in the industry, be more visible. And then you've got the frontline services, which, you know, you can imagine being at the front end of everything, being a helpline advisor, a case manager, working in our specialist services, training. It's so vast, the roles that we have available. And then you've got a senior management kind of structure and the central provisions around HR, IT, and sort of finance. So we need those kind of business functions to support our mission. So it's really varied. And and we will, over time, as we grow, because we've got some sort of real growth ambitions over the next 5 years, we'll definitely have more and more roles available for people. And really, we do want people from the industry to come in. Okay. So we're trying to attract people from the industry to come and join us, because they understand and can navigate their way around the industry as well. That's a real advantage for us.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Well, we're nearly at the end. That brings us on to our little life lessons section. Beth, I'm going to come to you first. What life lesson have you got for us today?
I think I was saying to someone yesterday, a life lesson that I keep reiterating to my children as well at the moment is to just do things when they scare you. I very much feel I was a bit nervous about coming to this podcast, and I was like, you just got to do these things, because if you don't do them, they stay scary. And that's
Please
really
tell me this hasn't stayed scary.
No, this wasn't scary at all. But if you go and do something, it's never as bad as you thought it was going to be. You know, it's not. You always kind of imagine the worst. So just go, give something a go. If you're feeling nervous, if you're feeling scared about something, you're much better doing it. And maybe it doesn't go great, but it's never going to be as bad as you thought it was.
Here, 100%. Good. And how about you, Rachel?
So I would say, if I'm thinking about it from a leadership perspective, one of the things that I really embarked upon as I was going through the recruitment process for the CEO role was how important it was for me to really understand myself and my values, because that pretty much drives everything I do and how I do it. And I think we kind of know it, but I did a really big deep dive on it ahead of the process, and I think that's really helped me to understand myself in navigating relationships, both at Ben, internally, both personally, outside, and it's just been a bit of a game changer for me. So that, and then somebody asked me a question the other week. We were doing some fun stuff, some sort of marketing fun stuff, and they said, what would be in your wellbeing sort of tool, your glove compartment, what would be in there? And I said, it's very typical of me, I went, a healthy dose of gratitude. So if you live your life by having gratitude, I think, you know, that's a really strong positive thing.
Oh, well, I have a lot of gratitude due to coming on my podcast today. So thank you very much. That's a brilliant way to finish this episode. Thank you.
Thank you very much.